Welcome to my talk, Stop to Disability, the web is designed for all. This is the title of my talk today. And of course, you might think like, what is it all about? Why is she writing this so weirdly? And how is it to understand? So first of all, stop to disability. The first word, save your energy, stop something, don't do it, just leave it as it is. To this, be kind to people. Don't be mean, don't diss somebody. Maybe this word is more from the 90s, but anyway, I thought it's a nice combination. And last but not least, the ability. So discover the power of your users. So stop to disability means in the end nothing else than just save your energy, be kind to others, and discover the power of your users. And of course, how can you do this? How can you do this in your current company? How can you do this in your current job? First of all, focus on the abilities of your users, not the disabilities. So disabilities is a negation of the word abilities, and we want to stay positive, right? Not negative. So I am a fan of using the abilities of our users. But let me give you one example. If someone cannot see, so this someone is blind, this someone can still hear and has other abilities. So if you are focusing on these abilities, you make your life easier and you change your perspective. You just put it upside down if you want so. Okay, but let's get a bit more specific. What is the idea behind it? I created a concept that is called the active user. The active user is someone that can actively overcome their disability by using their abilities. So like I said before, with a person that cannot see, this person can hear. So the user can get active and can try to use his ears or her ears instead of the eyes. Let's do this on an example like visiting a website. We are all working in product development somewhere. If it is an app, a website, it doesn't matter. You always need something to navigate and to receive the content of your website. So the active user, if they want to navigate, we have these two categories of a disability, which I would like to avoid, and focus on the ability. Let me give you another example. So the mouse is a very common tool to navigate through a website. You can also use a trackpad, of course. The thing behind this is you need control over your hands. You need control over your body to be able to use this tool to navigate through a website. And if we focus on the abilities of the users instead of using their body or their hands or fingers to navigate through a website, they can also use, for example, an eye tracker. So they can navigate through a website with their eyes. Another example is, of course, a keyboard. Same procedure. So also fingers, body is not working like it should. So you can also use a voice control. We know this a bit more from our mobile phones, where we can use it every day as well. But people that have the disability to not use their body, they can use the ability of their voice. The other example is, or not the example, but the next step is to receive the content that you're providing. If it is your product, content on a website, whatever, this content has to be receivable. Again, disability and ability. If the disability is with the ears, so somebody is deaf, they still have the ability to see. It's the opposite example of the blind person that can hear, so we have it in both directions to receive content. Another example for a disability with the eyes, to being blind, is that these people can touch things. So if you imagine the Braille keyboard, it is the language for people that are blind that you might know from public spaces somewhere. They can touch things. This is something you can also use as an ability of this user. Sometimes more in the analog world, but also in the digital one. And this also can be replaced in both directions, of course, to receive information. Because this Braille keyboard is working in both directions. You can write with it, and you can also use it to read. But what is it all about for us? And we are the product people. We are the ones that should work with it. And the user is active, that's fine. So they can use different tools to receive our content. But what do we have to do? So I created the opposite to the active user is the active product. So this product should support the active user while the user is using its abilities, right? So because it's unfortunately not always possible for an active user to just went through your website with its own abilities. Again, we have the classification of a navigation through a website and the receiving of content on a website. And we, with the active product, focus on the ability of our users, that they can listen to something and that they can see our content. How can we do this? Well, first of all, no matter which assistive technology the user is using, well-structured HTML code or well-structured code in general is the main key, because all assistive technology uses a basic code. They can adapt to this code. So if you provide a well-structured, in this case, HTML code or whatever code of your technologies, it is the main key thing to be provided and to make your website accessible. The next one is coherent information architecture. We all know this from navigations where we have like, you're searching for the contact form, for example, and you can't find it because it's hidden underneath about us or something. So try to make your information architecture really clean and very accessible in the end, because it's always a good thing to do for each and every user. And in the end, the speaking hyperlinks. So let me give you an example here. You probably all know those blog websites. You have different articles and they are all teasered in one page, and they often end with a ... more. If you are a blind person now and you have the ability to hear, you are using maybe a screen reader as an assistive technology. And this assistive technology is able to just read the links on a website to you. We, as seeing people, we will scan the website as well just for links to click on. The same is possible for the screen reader. Unfortunately, if you have all these blog posts just teasered on, the screen reader will sound like this: more, 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 more. So the blind user is not really able to decide, okay, which more shall I click, where I'm interested in. And you can prevent this problem for the user if you just use speaking hyperlinks. So write in it what is to be expected from the user if he or she clicks on your links. So for example, more about article XYZ will help a lot. This is regarding the navigation, and these are just examples, of course, but I want to give you a short intro here. The next step is to receive the information on your website, what we had before with the active user. Again, we have the ability to listen to something and we have the ability to see something. The ability to listen to something can be supported by audio description. Or audio description. Audio description is really something where you're just describing the content in a video, for example, that is happening around the conversation maybe two people have in this video. The good thing is today we have technologies that are able to support you here. You just have to adapt them, and yeah, that's it. So try to focus on the ability to listen and complete the whole session and translate the whole video into something audible. This is also valid for the alt text attribute in HTML, and you should definitely use this for visual information, because all visual content, sometimes we have a great infographic or something that we want to show on our website, but unfortunately each and every text in a picture or something is not accessible for users that have the ability to listen to things. If you provide the alt text attribute where you write what you can see on this picture or on this graphic, you will allow the users that are only able to listen that they can use a screen reader, for example, and the screen reader will tell them what's written on this graphic. For the ability to see, it's key and the most important thing for each and every one of us, that the contrast between text and background is so, so important. You might know this if you're sitting in the train and you go to a tunnel and the sun is shining through the window and you always have this different kind of contrast on your mobile phone. It's really annoying and you can't properly read the content on the website. So this is something which is very, very important and a basic tool, not just for accessibility in general, but really for each and every one. And of course, people that can see should be able to read plain and easy to understand language. Let me give you another example here. If somebody is deaf, for example, this person can't hear, but this person can see, right? The thing is, people that are deaf, there are studies that they have a speaking level of a 6th grade or under pupils. So because they can't listen to a language, they are not able to learn the language as good as a hearing person can do this. So it's important to have plain and easy to understand language. Don't use too complex words. I mean, we all know this after a long day of work. You don't want to read a complex text. You just want to have it easy and understandable on a website. So, the active product. We've been talking about what we can provide for the active user. And the thing is, and I want to please it with you because accessibility is sometimes something frightening. And the thing is, you don't need to know all different disabilities. If you focus on the abilities of your users and try to make your website accessible with this ability, completely just with this ability, you make your life way easier and it's way easier to handle and to go through. But speaking of a team, who is responsible? Who can do this actually in our product world, in our product team? And this is an ideal product team, I would say, where you have product management, UX design, and development. Sometimes you have one more, one less. It's just an idea here now. But we also work with other departments. So the CEO department, maybe a content creator, maybe you have a QA for the development as well and for the whole product. You have marketing and many other departments you're working with, depending of the company you're working for. So if we're just focusing on product management, UX design and development to make it a bit easier here, who is responsible for all these different active product elements, how I would call them? Who can do this? Well, first of all, accessibility, everybody is responsible. This sounds a bit rough and a bit tight, but the thing is responsible. Don't get responsible as something like the person responsible has to implement it. It's not meant like that. It's more that if you are responsible as a whole team, you can remind each other of these little tools and extras you have to do. So for example, the HTML code, it's obvious that this somehow belongs to the development department. But nonetheless, the product management and UX design can help development. They can remind development. They can also do some research how you can do this and how you can implement it. So always try to see it as an idea that the whole team is responsible for, and you can help and support each other within your team. But if you're asking just, yeah, but why shall I focus on this? I often hear the argument that no, people that have disabilities are entering our website. They don't want to receive our content. Well, let me tell you, if you're focusing on this, you can increase your company's revenue. This is always something, it's about money. So this is something you can tell your boss and tell them, hey, listen, you can really increase your company's revenue, because if you make your content accessible for all, just imagine you can sell your product to all. In the end, you should not limit your own abilities here as well to just sell your product to a certain target group maybe. Let the users decide if they want to use and receive your content and buy your product. Second of all, consider situative accessibility. So I was talking about the mobile phone situation and going through a tunnel stuff already. If you are using and considering really situative accessibility, you can sell your products in each and every situation, no matter where your users are. If they are in the jungle somewhere, if they have internet, you can sell your product. If they are sitting in a train going through a tunnel and they have internet, of course, you can also sell your product. So you can increase your company's revenue by just selling your product. And in the end, and this is, I think, a very important point, because CEO has an own department in most companies. Think about Google as a user with limited abilities. In the end, Google is nothing else. Google can't see, Google can't listen. Google needs all the descriptions and everything a user needs that maybe has limited abilities as well. But what else is to be considered? Well, there is this interesting European Accessibility Act. This is a new law from the EU, and it will apply from June 28th, 2025. So we have quite some time to go. But if you start today, you're maybe prepared for this date, because different EU states have to implement this law into their national law now. And in Germany, it's called, and it's a very nice word, it's called Barrierefreiheitsstärkungsgesetz. My first thought was, okay, this is the most inaccessible word ever, but no matter what, it's called like this in Germany, and it's translating the EU law into our German national law. But what is it all about? So accessibility means really your content has to be accessible to navigate through, to receive information. And here are just some examples for products and services that this European Accessibility Act is valid for, or will be valid for, that the law is applying to. So it's for computers and operating systems in general, but also like analog payment terminals, like ATMs, you know them in banks and in the shops where you should pay. These should be accessible as well. But also for smartphones, that the user is able to use a smartphone in all its whole content. Transport services, this includes like those ticket machines, websites as well, and all the information you get via phone as well. And e-commerce is probably the one most of you, I just guessed, but most of you might apply to, because this is all the platforms that are selling products. So if you're selling anything through the web, this law will definitely apply for you. And of course, consumer banking is another one that is very important. I always thought this has to be accessible to be able to deal with money, but obviously it's not. So it's another point of a service that this act will apply to. So let me come to the conclusion already. Good usability includes accessibility. No matter what, this is just a general thing. I think this should be supported. But if you focus on the abilities of your users instead of the disabilities, you will definitely make your life way easier. It's not this huge pile of problems you're standing in front of where you think like, oh, accessibility, where shall I start? How can I handle this? How can I sell this? That we as a team will do it together. Like I said, focus on the abilities of your users, and it's way easier to think through all this process. Yeah, think about it that your user really has these different abilities as well. So your users are active. They want to receive your content. They want to use your product. You got them as far as that. So why would you block them out to say, no, sorry, we don't want you to use this product? Just open it up to really, lift your company's revenue as well. Therefore, you have to create this active product. If you do this actively by focusing on the abilities and you provide all the necessary stuff, all the thing is done. So you will have an increase of the product in general with the revenue. You have an active user that is happy, so you lift your usability, and you really are happy yourself because it's, like I said, not this pile of problems you're standing in front of. And in the end, let's face it, it will be the law from June 2025 anyways. So if we do it today and we start today, it's way easier to settle in slowly and to really give it a chance. Like I said before, if you provide your content for all, you can also sell your product to all. And in the end, everybody will benefit from an accessible web. If you just imagine you have a little accident, or maybe we get older one day, of course, you can't read content that well, you will definitely be happy that someone provided you an accessible app, and you will be thankful for this. And while talking about being thankful, I thank you for your attention, and yeah, I'm happy to talk about any questions you have now, and anything you want to ask. And yeah, thank you so much for your attention. I also provided some sources here in this presentation where you can look the European Accessibility Act up, where you can look for the details of the Barrierefreiheitsstärkungsgesetz, and also some additional information from the WC3, which is taking care of a good and well-structured internet. They focused on some tips how you can get started on this topic. And the concept of the active user and the active product, you can find more information on my website for that. Yeah, like I said, thank you so much for your attention, and yeah.